the only one who's been murdered by a Muslim gang. You probably don't, I do. Do you know any 15-year-old girls that you know that you've grown up with that have been raped or pimped? You don't. So I don't expect you to understand the issues.
These are all personal issues of yours.
Personal issues in towns and cities like mine that are happening, and they're not happening with the Sikh community, they're not happening with the Jewish community.
And indeed, they're not happening with most Muslims.
No, they're happening within the Islamic community. This is what I'm saying, that it's an Islamic problem. And when I'm just a simple person, so I'm just a normal person, but when I'm looking at, I have to look for where this hatred is coming from.
So are you seriously suggesting there aren't white drug dealers and there aren't white gangs?
Of course I'm not, no.
Or Sikh gangs or any other kind of...
No, I'm not, but I'm saying some of these specific issues are coming from the Islamic community, solely the Islamic community. Terrorists wanting to blow us up, constant hostile activity towards our youth, all these problems, and from sitting back, there's got to be something it's coming from. None of the other communities are spreading it, so we're a symptom of the problem. The English Defence League are
You're claiming that community is spreading it. Actually, what we're talking about
members
here...
of the community.
Yes, exactly, as you could talk about members of the white community doing all sorts of atrocious things.
Yeah, but not 24-year-old groups of 10 of them hanging around outside school gates.
You've never seen a white gang?
And purposely targeting...
Never seen a white gang?
Are we going to pretend that Muslim groups are not out there purposely targeting our youth and pimping them? Are we going to pretend it's not happening?
You're not pretending white people aren't doing that?
Then not in the same manner, not in the same group. They're saying it's a cultural thing.
Tommy Robinson, the polarizing British activist and founder of the English Defence League, has once again sparked debate with his latest remarks on social cohesion, extremism, and the role of religious communities in the UK. Speaking in a recent interview, Robinson delivered a complex but inflammatory critique of the Islamic community, one that has drawn both fierce condemnation and grudging curiosity from across the political spectrum. At the heart of Robinson's argument is a familiar refrain, that issues such as terrorism, violence, and the exploitation of youth are prevalent within some Muslim communities in the UK. However, in a surprising tonal shift, Robinson also acknowledged that these issues are not unique to Islam. Instead, he insisted that society must confront them wherever they emerge, be it within Islamic contexts or other cultural and religious groups. There are problems in the Islamic community, but there are also problems in other communities. The difference is, only one gets protected from criticism, Robinson claimed. When we talk about grooming gangs, radicalization, or hostility towards Western values, it's always framed as don't generalize. But when a white man commits a crime, the media doesn't hesitate to generalize. Indeed, Robinson's invocation of youth exploitation, particularly referencing grooming scandals in cities like Rotherham and Telford, is designed to tap into the rawest emotional nerve in the UK's ongoing reckoning with systemic failures. While there is documented evidence of abuse rings involving individuals of Pakistani heritage in these cases, multiple government reports have consistently warned against racializing the issue, emphasizing that exploitation exists across ethnic lines and is often driven by opportunity, not ideology. Nonetheless, Robinson insists that his views are based on lived experiences and research. Though his sources are often disputed, he frames himself as a whistleblower targeted by political correctness and elite censorship. "The problem isn't that I said it," he remarked during the interview. "The problem is that people know it's true and they're too scared to admit it." While Robinson's influence has waned since his Edel days, he's been banned from most social media platforms and regularly faces legal battles. His message still resonates in dark corners of the political spectrum. And as long as the government fails to address legitimate social concerns with transparency and nuance, figures like him will continue to weaponize those failures. In the end, Robinson's commentary is not just about Islam. It's about power, fear, and who gets to shape the narrative of Britain's future. Whether we confront that complexity or retreat into tribalism remains a question not just for politicians, but for every citizen who believes in an open, honest, and pluralistic society. Next, we will come to Camilla Tominey. Public spending is 45% of GDP. What would you bring it down to? Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride says Camilla Tominey's question on specific policies to reduce government spending is a media game.
Let's be very grown up and let's be specific about some figures. Public spending is currently 45% of GDP. What would you want to bring it down to under the Conservatives?
Well, Camilla, you know with this particular kind of game, this media game, that I can't write a budget which is going to be...
No, it's not a media game. Is 45% too high?
Well, Camilla, yeah. Well, look, we need to get those numbers down, but I can't write a future Conservative budget.
But we agree 45
years' time on your show. But
should it begin with a 3? That figure.
Absolutely, we need to get a small. We need to get a smaller state. We absolutely need. But my point, Camilla, is that the only credible plan, you look at Margaret Thatcher when she came to power in 1979, the first thing they did actually was the fiscally responsible work to get inflation down. It was then later that taxes were brought down. So in other words, there is a sequence, and it has to have fiscal responsibility right at its heart. Now, Reform are not offering that. Reform are just simply saying they'll give everybody everything they could possibly want without any idea as to how they're actually going to afford it. So that's why fiscal responsibility is so important.
All right, I've got a radical idea. It's actually not mine, it's Jeremy Hunt's. He says that we should slash the welfare budget by 50 billion, 50 Mel Stride, and I speak to you in your capacity also as a former Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, and he thinks that anybody claiming benefits for mild mental health problems and conditions like anxiety should not receive them. Do you agree with Mr. Hunt on that?
On the mental health route into long-term sickness benefits, yes, I do. I haven't looked at his specific proposals, but when I was Secretary of State, we made changes to what's called the significant risk route through the work capability assessment, which when it first came in was expected that 1% of people would go through that mental health route. It ended up being about 17 times that. And I brought in reforms that made big changes there. And the OBR, just if I can finish this, the consequences were that the Office for Budget Responsibility said that 450,000, almost 500,000 fewer people would therefore be going on to these long-term sickness benefits as a consequence and could be helped into work. So that's a big radical thing that we did in office. Now, what has this Labour government done? It's junked the whole lot of it. So they are quite happy to see these benefit bills going up and up, ever upwards.
Okay, so 50 billion could be slashed.
Well, if you look at the working age population and those that have a health or disability element to their benefits, and you were to keep that cohort at the same size for the next 5 years rather than growing ever upwards as the OBR says it would, you'd save about 15 billion. If you got that cohort back down to where it was before the pandemic, you would save about 35 billion. There are certainly some very large savings that can be made. Has to be done in a principled way because you have to protect the most vulnerable, and there are people that absolutely need our support. But the opportunity here to make very significant savings in that area and PIP and other areas is very significant indeed.
Very quickly, because I asked Darren Jones a final yes-no answer question. Are you ready to leave the ECHR, yes or no, Mel Stride?
So we are going to look into the ECHR and ask those tough questions about whether it makes sense to leave or not, and we're right to do that. Well, I know you're chuckling away, Camilla.
I just like to have a yes or no answer.
No. I know you always want the yes no, but at the end of the day,
are you ready to? Was the question. Are you ready to
thoroughly look into it? I will, as will all my colleagues. We will look at what comes through as a result of this commission that's looking into this matter, and I don't want to prejudge that. You know, it's a big, very important decision. It can have very significant ramifications, not least in Northern Ireland, etc. So forgive me if I just wait to see the full detail.
See the workings, Mel Stride. Thank you very much indeed for joining me this morning. Thank you. Politicians these days can't seem to answer any questions without somebody commissioning a report or a review. Have you noticed that?